Good morning. I allowed myself to lean into feeling angry this morning, and I uh, made it a point not to get caught up in thought and spinning out, but really holding anger. And I kind of went in a circle. I guess to recap where I went there, um, I was angry that I'm not being taken care of, or that at first I was acknowledging my fear of resources, of my job. Um, and then that went into anger of like, why do I have to be so scared? Why do I have to worry about being taken care of? And the thoughts went to community of like, we don't, that I, in my heart, I like demand community. Um, and I was thinking about like banks and mortgages. And I mean, that's a huge part of what I need a job for, is that I have to um, provide for a shelter. And I thought about how people like variable rate loans versus, what is it called? Fixed rate loans and credit cards, and how, um, and then I started thinking about banks, and I was like, how do I choose, like, who do I deal with? Which hands do I want to shake? And the way that I choose people is, at the end of the day, I kept getting advice of like, sure, just go with whatever mortgage broker gives you the lowest rate and the best whatever deal. And I've kind of been through different things where, suddenly you shook that hand and then they hand you off to a big bank, and then I found out that's how it's done. And then I said, no, I'm going to stick with the credit union. So I did that. But then their services were outsourced to someone else because they're too small to handle it or whatever. And then I thought, okay, I'm going to deal with a big bank, but what am I trying to find? This is just an example. And I said, at the end of the day, I notice I value being treated well in a whole way, in a holistic way. Um, at the end of the day, I expect to be treated well, and I expect to be able to treat others well. I want to take care of others in a whole way. And when I'm kept from doing that, I get angry at that. And I circled back to work. And I thought, when I first joined my company, it felt like an environment where there was freedom to explore, and your commitment was to your client. It's like, whatever question the client has, I have the freedom to investigate the answer, and, I'll get back to you on that, and call the departments and talk to whomever and get that answer, put it together, and be that person who is there for them, truly there for them. And then my company started growing. This is how it goes. And functions became more and more compartmentalized and siloed. They call them silos. And more, when I wanted to call someone from a different department to get the answer for a client who asked me the question, I kept on getting the answer, well, that's not your job. You should tell them to email that, group box, call that number, get help from that department. Oh, now it's this person's job to, and then they're like, I think people need a point person. And I was like, really? And then I was told, well, it's not you, it's going to be someone else. So suddenly it's someone else's job to take on the stress of being that guy if they don't want to be that guy. I want to be that guy. And I realized finally this morning why I'm so, there's the fear and stress. And like my soul died when they started checking how long it takes to do certain things. Just to enter your time, but who are the most time consuming clients or whatever, and trying to balance workload. It's like, you wouldn't have to do that if if we had an environment of like, oh, I have some free time, what do you need help with? Like workflow would be balanced. But when you mandate that, there's a constant, I was talking about this in my little go-karts video yesterday. There's huge amounts of energy is lost when you're constantly recovering. You're constantly needing to recover from the stress of being forced to do something. And I realize I love helping people. And that's what I want. I want to be I want to be able to, whatever hand I shake, either in service or in someone serving me, that's people who are taking care of each other. When I shake someone's hand, when I say, hey, we're working together, what I want to be able to implicitly say there is, I gotcha. I got your back. And if you have a question, you come to me. I'm going to ask everyone. And a huge amount of my anger comes from not being able to serve people, that the resources right there, and they're like, nope, that's not your job. And my soul dies every time I'm told, well, that's not your job. And it sucks. And so part of what I'm working on is loving that I'm the kind of person that feels that way, and not reprogramming myself and saying, well, that doesn't matter, whatever, it's fine, I'll just do my job. And being okay with the world not working that way. And reconciling, like loving that part of myself and not discounting it as too emotional or too childish, and being finding a way to be okay in a world that is dissonant with itself, it feels. And that's where that higher view comes in, of that it all works if you look on a high enough level. All of this madness. I kind of think of a video that I came across with Alan Watts speaking, where he was like, inside your bloodstream, white blood cells are constantly fighting certain things. And if you looked into that fight and started taking sides, started trying to stop the fight, it's bad for your immune system to not be fighting. Fighting is harmony. So it's views like that help me find harmony within this. But part of the journey is to allow that emotion, and to acknowledge that, and to say, you know what, this is beautiful. This anger is beautiful. And my wanting to serve is beautiful. And my maybe looking for another job where the company's not big enough to be shredding that community yet. I've been very lucky in my life I keep on finding places, either workplaces or businesses, that I'm patronizing or using for services, where they're right before the transition of being too big for community. Community needs, when you get too big, we compartmentalize and institutionalize, and we need community. And when you try to create a system that works for more and more people, which if a business is serving is growing, and an American model economy, you have to keep growing to survive, you're going to have that natural progression of the shredding of community. So like startups where it's not toxic, because I've heard of startups being not great, but places where there's still something pure driving that business. I'm digressing now. Anyway, this is my brain trying to find a solution of like, okay, what do I do next? How can I solve this problem? But these are just feelings to feel, and knowing it was nice to identify this morning because it helps me both find peace where I am, find like acknowledge that it's not that I'm doing it wrong. It's that this is the environment that I'm in and this is how I feel, and that's okay. Um, and that it feels nice to not feel wrong and not feel, it helps me feel more safe, like that it's not like, oh, I'm doing it wrong, and so I'm not, I don't fit in here. And when you feel like you don't fit in, that's a feeling of danger of I'm not going to be taken care of because I don't fit in, and they're not going to keep me around. Um, and my company is doing this thing where they have a great core culture, and it got shredded with compartmentalizing functions, and so they're trying to like find their way back to the culture being good, but there's something they shattered, and so uh, um, their heart's in the right place, but they're very big. They're growing. They're exponentially growing, and they have no intention of stopping their growth. And they want to serve more people, and it comes from a good place. But when you grow too fast, when you grow at all, this is how it goes. Anyway, it helps me feel better because it helps me feel like I can stay true to myself, and if at some point it feels like my spirit needs a new place, that it's okay to look for a new job, because I keep rationalizing this. I've had moments where I'm like, you know what, it's time. Start updating my resume. um, and then I had this thought of like, well, everyone's growing. Well, everyone's going to be this way anyway. So, better to deal with the devil that kind of thing. And sometimes I feel better. Sometimes I feel worse, depending on, I don't know, depending on how much work there is to do and just where my heart is that day. And this makes me feel like it's okay to go with my gut, and to the CEO of the first company I ever, where I had my first like real job, I guess. I heard from one of my coworkers that he had a huge poster or like a framed thing on his wall that said, "Do both." um, and that was a company that came from a solid community, and it really felt like everyone was there to serve the client and to really be of service to each other and to the community, and that was amazing. And then they grew too big, and then they got sold to a corporation, and it all got shredded. Um, but so I'm now in a similar situation. Um, but it's okay to do both, to both stick around and to let my heart, if it needs to be somewhere else, to be somewhere else, or to find somewhere else, and to not be afraid to do that, and to not be afraid to stick around. And some of the most powerful people that I respect the most build community where they are. And when I have the strength and energy to do that, I've been able to do that. And, to live within the circumstance of madness or of dissonance of some level or another. And to still be that guy, be someone who people can trust and go to, and be okay with when you have to hand things off, to hand them off, but to, be someone that is of great service as long as you're the guy handling whatever you're handling. So this state, I guess. Finding this place of being makes me feel stronger where I am. And maybe it'll allow me to um, do the job that I'm doing right now better because I can focus on every moment that I am the person handling something. Um, because my soul's been, I was going to say slowly dying, but no, it died like when they started, um, when they tore us apart and then started checking what everyone's doing. Um, but it's definitely under pressure, and so this is a way for it to kind of be able to move and do what feels more right in every moment and have that strength. So that's what I woke up with this morning, holding that. I'm looking forward to more moments like this and more um, times with myself like this where I can hold what needs to be held and feel what needs to be felt and find more peace and strength wherever I am in my life with whatever's going on. Have a good Saturday.